Complicated to nail the perfect lap around this Spielberg circuit. Sector 1 includes the sharp climb to the first corner, into the chicane 2A and 2B. Sector 2, hard braking into turn 3 and downhill into turn 4. Two of the three left-handers in Sector 3, turns 6 and 7, before the lap completed by turns 9 and 10. Always drama down the years here in Austria at those two final corners. Heavy braking zones at 1, 2A and 4. Good overtaking opportunities I provided in those particular sections. Overtaking hotspots, well, there are plenty of them. Turn 1 into both chicanes, turn 3, turn 9 and turn 10. This was Marquez on Jack Miller into the chicane 1 year ago. So 2 weeks ago in our 75th anniversary celebrations in retro liveries, it was Enea Bastianini, the beast, at the double at the British Grand Prix in Silverstone. Jorge Martin hit the front ahead of world champion Pecco Bagnaia. Looked like he was making a victorious return after a dreadful Sachsenring Grand Prix in Germany before the summer break. But the beast, so good, so strong, and so fast on worn tyres, started his charge towards the front. A late mistake from Martin, you felt was immaterial. The late race pace of Enea Bastianini, it was a magic performance in front of Harry Potter stars, as the beast drags himself into world championship contention. He starts from 7th place in the upcoming 14-lap Tissot sprint. What a session it was in Q2 this morning, as Jorge Martin, overnight, some drama for the world championship leader. A rather bizarre injury he carries into the remaining action here in the Styrian Mountains. He was having a shower in his motorhome in the paddock here last night. We're not quite sure what the cause was, but Jorge Martin has quite a nasty cut, a gash in his left thumb. We saw it heavily bandaged this morning, pre-FP2 and pre-qualifying. He was on a constant observation from MotoGP medic Dr. Angel Chartra. Didn't really hold up the Martinator though, did it, in a thrilling Q2 session, as the Prima Pramac racing star powered to yet another pole position here in Austria. He was on the pole at the double in both 2021 races. Memorable weekend for Martin that weekend, of course, when he took his first ever MotoGP victory. It has been getting hotter and hotter after a rather cloudy and overcast start to Sprint Saturday. Once the cloud cover had burned off, well, the world's best riders have been burning some hot laps around this 4.3-kilometre Austrian circuit. We came back here, of course, in 2016, and it has been very much the domain of Ducati. 8 Grand Prix victories in 10. They won the first Tissot sprint to take place in Austrian soil here 1 year ago, thanks to Pecco Bagnaia's brilliance. Bagnaia, though, will not be repeating last year's treble. Pole, the Tissot sprint win and the Grand Prix win, denied pole position by nearly a tenth and a half. Breathtaking lap by Martin, that 1:27.748. Bagnaia hot on his coattails, only 2 riders, the top 2 in the World Championship, the top 2 riders really in the last 18 months or so in the MotoGP World Championship. Both of them in the 1:27s. A star-studded front row as well. What a mouth-watering prospect this is, with Martin and Bagnaia joined in the top 3 in Q2 by Marc Marquez. First time in 2024, the first time since they've locked horns together on Ducatis that they find themselves starting on the front row of the grid. So you can see these live pictures inside the Prima Pramac Ducati garage. You can clearly see there the strapped up and bandaged left thumb for Jorge Martin. This is him on X recently. Pole, for those who have asked yesterday in my room, I cut my finger. Well, it was actually his thumb. So it was worse than I expected. Thanks to my medical team, we'll give 100% in the Tissot sprint. Tissot sprint, of course, is where Jorge Martin really does shine. He's been the superstar of the sprint since the new era kicked off in Portimao last year. And under glorious clear blue skies, on a blazing sunshine here in Spielberg, it's Matt Burt and Lewis Sotheby in the commentary box to talk you all through the nail-biting 14 laps coming our way. Simon Crafar down in pit lane. Lewis, a sensational record-breaking lap by Martin. What a front row, what a prospect we have in store, not just for the sprint coming up in, about 20 minutes' time, but also for the full-feature 28-lap Grand Prix of Austria tomorrow. Martin, Bagnaia, Marquez, your front row. Doesn't really get much better than that.
A heavyweight front row. The first time that particular trio have shared the front row of a MotoGP grid so far this year. If you said to Pecco Bagnaia this morning, in fact, Jack Appleyard said this to him, surely you must have thought when you said a 127.889 that was pole position. I think Bagnaia believed it had been until he realised that Jorge Martin had already said a 127.748. The pace continues to hot up in MotoGP. Just 3 points separates the top two in the World Championship, which means that there is the possibility of that World Championship lead swapping hands once again today. If Pecco Bagnaia wins this Tissot sprint, he will regain the World Championship lead from Jorge Martin, although he is in Martin territory. He loves the sprints.
Saturday in Spielberg has been so far so good for Australian Jack Miller. 10th this morning, that was a good early marker, and he's qualified his equal best of the season. 5th on the grid, he leads the Pierre Mobility Group charge on the Red Bull KTM Factory Racing machine. Pol Espargaro, the wild card on a very radically new looking RC16, goes from 10th. Brad Binder, the third of the Red Bull KTM riders in this morning's Q2 session, well, he was last, unfortunately. He goes from 12th place on the grid. Here's your world champion then, who did the dream double here in Austria 1 year ago. Second, well, he's qualified second now in 5 of the last 7 Grand Prix. Has Pecco Bagnaia. 7 Sunday podiums in a row, could equal his best run of 8 in a row here tomorrow. 43rd MotoGP podium last time out at the British Grand Prix. So now the most successful Ducati rider in terms of wins and podiums. And fair to say, Lewis, it has been a very topsy-turvy, up and down weekend in the Styria Mountains for our rookie sensation, Pedro Acosta. A unique experience for him on Sprint Saturdays. First time today, he missed out on a place in Q2. 3 crashes. He's just had about everything thrown at him so far this weekend. Yeah,
he took the term an up and down weekend a little too literally, because he's been down on 3 occasions already. Picked himself back up though, as you say, from that 300 km/h crash down in the approach to turn 4 yesterday morning. It was one of 2 crashes that he had in 3 practice 1. That ultimately put him on his back foot and contributed to him finding himself in that qualifying 1 session, which of course featured 4 KTMs, with Pol Espargaro joining us as a wildcard this weekend. And Pol was one of the riders that contributed to Acosta missing Q2. It was Pol Espargaro in the end. This season. He comes into this sprint 49 points behind World Championship leader Jorge Martin, and you'd imagine that gap may grow given how strong Martin is in the sprints. But all you need to do is just look through the gap in Jorge Martin's visor and the look on his face as that glove is applied to his left hand. It's a picture of agony in the eyes of Jorge Martin. He is going to have to grit his teeth over the upcoming 14 laps. Well, we said it was a case of no pain, no gain for him in qualifying this morning, and he did bear the pain, and there was quite a lot of gain. His 5th pole position of the season, Ducati's 5th in a row here at the Spielberg circuit. They are going to take some beating, aren't they? Ducati's golden record, surely it will be protected in the sprint and the Grand Prix here tomorrow with that all-star front row, Martin Bagnaia and Marquez, as Martin then leaves the pit lane, grimacing in pain. It will be a long 42 race laps he's got coming up this afternoon, then 28 tomorrow here around Spielberg. Out of pit lane he goes. Looks like, thankfully, the forecasts have been correct. We know it can be pretty unpredictable, pretty temperamental in this part of Austria.
Of course, in the heart of the Styrian Mountains, it looks like we're going to be fair set for a dry sprint, but there are a few somewhat dodgy forecasts around for race day tomorrow. 40-50% chance of rain at some point, so the riders have been doing a lot of flag-to-flag bike swap practices so far this weekend, and I'd imagine from 12th on the grid, back of the 4th row, Brad Binder might be doing a rain dance in his motorhome at some point tonight.
Yeah, he did not get qualifying 2 right at all, although if he'd have gone back 24 hours, or certainly back 1 year, or 128.9 would have been considered a very, very fast lap time in MotoGP. Nowadays, that's 1.2 seconds from pole position. Pecco Bagnaia crawling at a rather sedate pace as they try and save every last drop of fuel they can on the way to the grid. Of course, we saw Pecco Bagnaia grind to a halt at the end of qualifying 2 earlier on this morning. So second on the grid for Pecco Bagnaia, 7th for Enea Bastianini. Let's get some pre-sprint thoughts from Davide Tardozzi of Ducati, who's with Simon on the grid.
He is. Always good to hear your thoughts, Davide. What are they going into today's sprint?
Yeah, there is an issue for a lot of riders of fuel consumption, who will be forced to have a kind of map B with means less power. So this is something that I think at the end of the race.
One other thing, or two, are tyres, like front tyre temperature, but rear tyre consumption or drop.
No, I don't think that it will be problems. I think that both tire, medium and soft can perform in the same way. We saw this morning Marc Marquez with 17 laps doing very well, while with more than 20 Martin did with the medium a fantastic lap time. So I think that is not a matter of consumption, it's a matter of stability. So we'll see. We'll see. That is a choice towards the riding style.
Thank you, Davide.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Ducati boss Davide Tardozzi. Yeah, this morning from Jorge Martin, we saw the fastest ever lap of Spielberg, and on this warm-up lap, the sighting lap, we're seeing the slowest laps you'll ever see here in Spielberg as all the riders go into fuel-saving mode as they come to the grid. As we're, about 12.5 minutes away from lights out for this